The case study to be examined in this PowerPoint presentation will be centered on ethical and legal issues in employee timekeeping. In the microbiology laboratory, employees are required to clock in upon arrival using the laboratory telephone. The laboratory director discovered that one clinical laboratory scientist, CLS, routinely clocked in late, yet time records showed he was consistently on time. Further investigation revealed that the employee had been using a personal cell phone to dial the clock-in system remotely, often while driving to work. Out of 160 workdays, he clocked in remotely 127 times. Following this discovery, the employee was terminated. However, a subsequent review revealed that 16 of the 23 remaining employees were also using their cell phones to clock in away from the workplace, 3 of whom had done so more frequently than the terminated employee. 2 of these 3 employees were close to retirement. This case presents a complex mix of legal, ethical, and management issues involving fairness, policy enforcement, consistency, and organizational accountability. Let's analyze each question systematically. First, some of the legal issues involved here are 1. The violation of company policy. The policy explicitly required employees to clock in from the laboratory telephone. Remote clock-ins constituted a breach of policy. 2. Inconsistent disciplinary action. Terminating one employee for misconduct that was widespread could lead to allegations of unfair or discriminatory treatment. And 3. Management oversight failure. The systemic nature of the violations suggests inadequate supervision and internal control. In terms of the ethical issues, there are several of them. 1. Integrity and honesty. Employees misrepresented their attendance, violating ethical standards of professional conduct. 2. Fairness and consistency. Firing one employee while many others did the same raises ethical questions about equal treatment. 3. Transparency and communication. The organization's policy was clear, but enforcement and education about consequences may not have been consistent. Finally, 4. Accountability. Both employees and management share ethical responsibility, employees for misconduct and management for lack of supervision or enforcement. With reference to the remaining 16 employees being fired, well, immediate termination of all 16 employees would be excessive and detrimental to laboratory operations and morale. Instead, the director should conduct individual reviews to determine the level of awareness and intent behind each violation. However, the appropriate actions may include 1. Formal written warnings or suspensions for those who violated policy. 2. Retraining on clock-in procedures, ethical conduct, and compliance. And 3. A clear documented notice that any future violations will result in termination. This approach balances fairness with accountability and ensures consistent policy enforcement moving forward. Furthermore, if I were in the position of being the laboratory director, I would take responsibility for the lack of oversight that allowed this issue to persist, reinforce the policy, and immediately disable the ability to clock in remotely, implement corrective action through fair and consistent disciplinary measures, educate and retrain staff on ethical conduct, professionalism, and accurate timekeeping. Evaluate and update procedures to prevent future violations, possibly adopting a secure biometric or electronic timekeeping system. And document all findings and actions to ensure transparency and protect the institution legally. Proposed solutions to the ethical dilemma. 1. Immediate and consistent discipline across all employees. In this solution, all employees who violated the clock-in policy would receive consistent disciplinary action, such as written warnings or suspensions, depending on the frequency and severity of the violations. Short-term consequences, immediate correction of the behavior, signaling to employees that policy violations will not be tolerated. Initial resentment or frustration from the employees who feel the discipline is too harsh. Long-term consequences. Employees will likely take the policy more seriously moving forward, reducing future violations. However, the department might experience lower morale and reduced trust in management, especially if the disciplinary actions feel too punitive. Ethical principles and professional codes. This solution ensures both justice and accountability. The reason why is because all employees are held to the same standard, and the principle of individual responsibility is reinforced. Stakeholder impact analysis. Employees, those who violated the policy, will likely feel unfairly treated, especially if they believe others weren't held accountable. The employees who followed the policy may feel vindicated, but could also be disillusioned if they believe the policy wasn't enforced earlier. Management will likely regain control over policy adherence, but might face criticism for poor oversight, leading to the issue in the first place. Laboratory operations. Disciplinary actions may temporarily disrupt workflows, but the long-term benefit is the establishment of a stronger compliance culture. When it comes to the pros and cons of this solution, pros ensures fairness and consistency in policy enforcement, addresses the issue immediately, and holds everyone equally responsible. Long-term improvement in policy adherence and employee accountability. Cons: decreased morale due to widespread disciplinary action, especially among those who may have violated the policy unintentionally. Potential backlash from employees who view the response as too harsh or inconsistent with previous management practices. Risk of higher turnover or disengagement if employees feel unfairly treated. 2. Retraining and corrective actions with a grace period rather than immediate termination or severe discipline. The laboratory could implement a retraining program that clarifies the clock-in policy alongside a grace period to allow employees to correct their behavior without severe punishment. Employees who violate the policy again after the grace period could face more serious consequences, such as suspension or termination. Short-term consequences. Employees may feel that their actions are being excused, leading to a possible lack of urgency to correct their behavior. Immediate costs in terms of time and resources for the retraining program. Long-term consequences. A culture of growth and learning is fostered, which could improve compliance and workplace morale over time. The grace period helps build trust between employees and management, reducing resentment, ethical principles and professional codes, accountability. Employees are given a second chance, but clear consequences are outlined. Stakeholder impact analysis. Employees are given the opportunity to improve without facing harsh discipline, which could lead to a better work environment. The grace period shows that management is willing to invest in improvement rather than punishment. Management could demonstrate a more empathetic and leadership-driven approach, but it would need to ensure that the policy is enforced effectively afterward. Laboratory operations. A grace period would likely result in fewer disruptions to daily operations than immediate terminations, but repeated violations could undermine the policy's effectiveness in the long term. Pros: builds a learning culture rather than a punitive one, maintains employee morale while still addressing the issue, may lead to long-term policy compliance with reduced resentment. Cons: some employees may take advantage of the grace period, not taking it seriously. Risk of weakened management authority if retraining is not enforced strongly. Employees may question whether future policy enforcement will be as lenient. 3. Targeted disciplinary actions based on frequency and severity. This approach involves tailoring the consequences based on each employee's violation frequency and severity. Those who violated the policy once or twice might receive warnings, while repeat offenders would face more severe consequences, such as suspensions or terminations. Short-term consequences, immediate consequences for repeat offenders, which could immediately improve compliance. Some employees may feel that the consequences for one-time violators are too lenient. Long-term consequences. This approach could lead to better compliance since the severity of discipline is directly linked to the level of the violation. Long-term. The lab could foster a stronger culture of fairness and personal responsibility by treating each case individually. Ethical principles and professional codes. This solution also ensures fairness and accountability. Stakeholder impact analysis. Employees. This strategy will likely be seen as fairer by employees, as it considers the context of each violation. However, it could lead to a sense of division among staff if employees feel that some violators are getting off easy. Management. This solution may result in more careful and considered decisions by management, which may lead to better employee relations. Laboratory operations. Like Solution 1, this approach ensures that violations are addressed, but with more proportional consequences, likely leading to greater long-term compliance. Pros: more tailored discipline that respects individual circumstances, reinforces personal responsibility and individual accountability, likely to maintain employee morale by being perceived as fairer and more reasonable. Cons: inconsistency in the application of discipline could lead to perceived favoritism. Determining the severity of violations could be subjective, leading to potential disputes or grievances. It may delay immediate corrective action, allowing repeated violations to continue. The most ethical and practical solution is to apply targeted disciplinary actions based on the frequency and severity of the violations. This approach ensures that employees are treated fairly, with proportional consequences that match the severity of their actions. It strikes a balance between fairness, accountability, and compassion, and it is likely to lead to more long-term improvement in behavior. Ethically, this solution respects the principle of justice by ensuring that disciplinary actions are proportional to the violations, preventing harsher penalties for one-time offenders while still holding repeat violators accountable. Practically, it avoids the negative impacts of mass punishment and reduces the risk of alienating employees or harming morale. It also ensures that management can be more precise in addressing issues rather than applying a blanket solution that might not fit every situation. Perspective of one of the 7 employees who followed policy. An employee who followed the rules would likely feel frustrated, resentful, or disheartened, knowing that honesty was not equally practiced or rewarded. They might question management's fairness and whether adherence to policy is truly valued. This situation could damage morale and trust in leadership if not handled transparently and equitably. Perspective of one of the remaining 16 employees. From the perspective of a violating employee, termination might seem too harsh, especially if there was a misunderstanding or if the practice had become normalized within the department. However, acknowledging personal responsibility is important. A fair resolution would involve disciplinary action, retraining, and a renewed commitment to follow procedures rather than immediate dismissal. Treatment of employees near retirement. Legally and ethically, the 2 employees nearing retirement should not receive preferential treatment solely based on age or retirement status. Doing so could raise issues of age discrimination under the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, ADEA. However, consideration could be given to the intent, frequency, and severity of their violations. If their behavior was consistent with widespread departmental norms and not malicious, they could be disciplined equally, but with sensitivity to their circumstances. Conclusion: this case highlights the importance of ethical integrity, consistent policy enforcement, and managerial accountability in laboratory operations. While employees clearly violated policy, management also failed to ensure compliance and supervision. A fair, corrective, and transparent approach, rather than punitive mass termination, would help restore trust, maintain morale, and uphold professional standards. Ultimately, this situation reinforces that ethical leadership in the laboratory is not only about enforcing rules, but also about cultivating a culture of honesty, fairness, and shared responsibility. Should an employee be held fully accountable for violating a policy if management has consistently failed to enforce or monitor that policy? Is it ethically fair to terminate one employee for misconduct if many others committed the same violation but were not disciplined? Position A: yes, each individual is accountable for their actions, and ignorance of others' misconduct does not justify one's own. Position B: no, selective punishment violates principles of fairness and equal treatment, and such inconsistency undermines ethical leadership. Should employees who are nearing retirement receive leniency in disciplinary actions for ethical violations compared to younger employees? Position A: yes, leniency recognizes their long service and avoids disrupting their retirement plans over a common, correctable mistake. Position B: no, ethics demand consistency. Different treatment based on age or retirement status is unfair and potentially discriminatory. Thank you. Here are the references.